I heard something.
I heard it.
All right, today is August 21st. It is 5:50 p.m. This is the Finance Committee meeting, and we are about to start. We have Jessica, Sharon, and Claudia, and myself, John, present, and being recorded. I forgot to say that. So first thing to cover is approval of the minutes. Any comment on the minutes?
Nope, I looked through them and I didn't see anything that was in question.
I just have one thing, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's just us being new,
Okay.
I believe, is I think that like 1 through 3 through D, it just says approved by Finance Committee, but like E and F are mention the motion and the second, and
You don't even have to put that in there.
Okay.
I don't.
You don't even have to put the motions in there. And
Okay.
who motioned. No.
Okay, I thought we did.
Nope.
You don't, okay.
Nope.
Okay. So I guess what we should do is maybe just be consistent in
Yes.
how we're
Yeah,
gonna do
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
So, oh no,
No, that's fine.
we're new at this, Jessica.
Yeah.
Training.
Yeah, no, you don't even have to have that in there.
Okay.
Okay. So with that said, I didn't see anything else in here that stood out. So if there's a motion made to accept the minutes. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Department requests, I don't have any. I don't know if anybody else has any. Okay, so skip over that. Review personal requisition forms. Do we want to go through them item by item, I believe, like usual? Or okay.
Yep.
All right. I have a couple questions on some of them. The first one is, I hope these are still in order. They should be.
I'll figure it out.
Is for, what's that? Is it Gloria?
Yeah, Gloria Belinsky.
Galinsky, substitute librarian. It says Gloria is stepping down from the substitute librarian position, but continue to volunteer in the library. So I believe this is just a notice of that she's quitting.
So it's just a resignation?
That's,
Yeah.
I believe that's
Okay.
all that this is,
Okay.
correct. Do I hear a motion to accept Gloria's?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. I'm going too fast. Slow me
I have
down.
them all in there today. I'm ready.
This next one is for Judith Poulin, substitute librarian. This must be to replace Gloria. It's pretty much, that's exactly what it looks like. The rate is the same. As she's on an as-needed basis through staff vacations and it is signed off by everyone else. So, do I hear a motion to accept Judith Poulin's?
Yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Lisa Shea. This is a PCF for senior technician circulation library. says Lisa will be replacing Carol Goulet, who retired in July. It looks like there is an increase in pay from $17 an hour from $15.51 an hour, and the hours look like they are increased as well. It looks like the annual changes by nearly $10,000. It is signed off, and it's with benefits as well. So it is signed off by Vicky and the PPPB. Do you know any more about this
Yeah,
one?
that was part of that giant group of changes that they made in our first meeting in July that we were
Okay.
rummaging through. And basically they did a staff reorganization. So essentially it was budget neutral, where they lost somebody or somebody retired, and then she is changing from her old position into this part-time senior technician. They wanted to have her on site more, based on what I read, just because of that she deals with like troubleshooting, answering questions and everything. So they just wanted her there more.
Okay.
And my memory is failing me in terms of like who actually is decreasing or who they didn't replace in order to give her the additional hours. But I think that's also why like that part-time,
The one we just did?
The one that's just
Yeah,
volunteering
yeah.
now?
So now it's just, yeah, okay, so she went to volunteer, but we put somebody in there to take her place as substitute, but
think-
that's
Right.
only as an as-needed
yeah,
position.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
And
the
the rate
entire
didn't
thing
change.
was going to be budget neutral.
Okay.
Said it was going to,
So nothing's gonna change in the budget?
Right.
Everything is gonna remain the
just
same?
who's getting the money
Okay.
was a
Right.
little bit different.
That's the only thing, is where the money is going, who it's going to, okay.
But that was during one of our first meetings.
Yep.
When the librarian,
Yeah, she actually presented it,
here.
explained it.
what's her name, Barbara? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Her name's probably on there.
Yeah, Barbara Golden, is it Barbara Golden, Goldu, G-O-L-D, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that's E-N or E-U? Okay.
All right. Want to take a look? Okay.
looked at it. And it is all explained in a letter that she had.
Oh, back in,
Yeah, so, anyway.
okay.
But
They're one of the departments that's really good with their budget.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, we'll hear a motion to accept Lisa Shea's PCF.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm assuming there's no discussion, you just hold me up. It seems like we're doing it anyway, so. Okay, next,
I
oops.
just want to see her now.
Next one is, this is a PRF for the library, substitute librarian. It says it's a replacement, to replace Gloria, who is resigned recently, which we just accepted. It says the pay scale is the $11 an hour, which was the same as the outgoing substitute. So she'll be as needed for substitute covering vacation, sick leave, staff, and workshops, etc.
Okay.
The rest of the annual expense will be about $900. Now, the difference between the PRF and the PCF, this is a personal requisition form, but what's the difference now? The
You may-
changes, they're changing things.
You're
but-
right, you may have one that is an emergency, so it's for her to start right away. So if you have somebody that left and somebody that took their place right away, so you'll have one that's gonna be an emergency for her to start right away, then you'll have one that's just the regular,
Okay,
but usually it'll say on there, usually it'll say emergency request or whatever.
I
Okay, I think that might be on the PCFs is where I've seen the emergency ones.
So I think what that is that they're requesting permission to actually fill the vacancy. Like, you know, if somebody leaves.
They're gonna look the same, and the only thing that's different is just either whether it's a PCF or a PRF.
Okay. Do we,
Because one is a personal change and then one is a personal request, I believe.
right,
Yeah.
okay. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Okay, move to accept.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Water system technician, this is a PCF. It's for a full-time position, it is benefited, and it says it's a new hire. Employee is Dennis Senecal. Full-time position, the hourly rate is $27 per hour for 40-hour week. 40 hours a week for 52 weeks. An annual of $56,160 base, 4 weeks vacation. This is signed by Vicky and the Personal Procedures Board, and I just don't know this. Okay, it's the source of funds is the enterprise fund. I don't.
It's the enterprise fund? That's where they'll be getting paid from?
That's what it says. Source of funds of the enterprise fund. It's because the water department has that, but I don't know. If you want to check it out.
So was there a requisition form that was approved for that position, and then the PCF would just be saying we filled the position?
It doesn't say they're replacing anybody, so I don't know what.
No. Is this a newly created position?
I don't know. That's one of the ones I had a question on as well.
And there's nothing else in there for saying whether they're replacing somebody or not?
Okay, it's custodian, fire, fire.
Oh, yeah, it says date of job posting, so we posted this job back in last December. Because it says date of job posting 12/20/2017, so this must be a newly created position, I'm assuming?
Yeah, because they actually have on their expense report, they have budgeted for water wages support 86,000, and they only spent 2,300. So I'm guessing this has been an open position
So
for.
it's been sitting there for a little while. Okay.
That was for 19 so far?
That was
sorry.
last year's.
Oh, for last year's,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Oh, they.
Where is that coming from again?
Hold on, I'm gonna double check, because I may have been looking at the wrong year.
Okay.
Right, because I have one from 7/118 to 8/10/19.
Right,
That's the one I have.
I have 7/117 to 6/30/18. I just want to double check. I did the right one.
I'm sorry, we're at the enterprise fund, right, which is under,
Water Enterprises.
Water.
Education, public works, culture, miscellaneous, school funds, road construction. Water Enterprises. So yeah, they had 78,445 budgeted and only spent 21,000.
Which page are you on?
This is the 7/117 to 6/30/18.
Oh, okay, you went back one further than me, I don't have that one.
And where is it under?
It's under Water Enterprises, under Water Wages Support. Do you have 18?
Water wages support?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're only at 2.69% so far. The water wages support, their budget is for 86.7, and they've only spent 2,300 so far this year.
Are you on page,
10. You have the same one I have, right?
I believe so.
7.1 to 8.10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking
Water
at the wrong-
wages
this
support.
one, sure.
I'm sorry?
No, I was looking at the wrong one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go
I
down,
think
Yep, second one down.
yeah.
Okay, so do we, so there's, so they spent $2,340 so far.
Yeah, so it looks like somebody's pulling a salary from there.
Right, but the budget, the original budget, or in the revised budget is both 86,000.
Right.
And this here is looking for
All
56,000,
right, so
so
let's,
56,160.
so how many weeks in is this? What is this, 5 weeks in, 6 weeks in?
Yeah, 6 weeks in.
they should be at 11.5%.
Right, that's it, okay. That's another way to look at it.
All right, so it looks
Right, if
like,
you look at the line above, that's the superintendent's salary, you know they're not splitting that with anybody, it's at
Right.
11.53%.
right. So whoever this 2340, whoever that is, it looks like their yearly salary is 20,300.
Mhm.
And how much is that total?
56,160.
All right, so that should cover it.
Mhm.
Yep, they should have some remaining.
I agree. You comfortable with it?
Mhm.
All right. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous to accept Dennis Seneca's PCF. Next one is a custodian, Town Hall, Police Department, Library for William Wells. This is.
There'll be
it
two
says-
there. There'll be an emergency and a part-time.
Yep, it says this is emergency, we might as well do them both together.
Yeah, that's fine.
Emergency and part-time. So I might as well go with this here. So it's gonna end up being part-time for $15.69 for 19.75 hours a week. Looks like he'll be spending 10.75 hours at the town hall, 5.5 at the police station, and 3.5 at the library. There's no benefits to this position. I don't know where this money's coming from, I guess.
It's gonna probably come from 3 different places. If he's splitting his hours and it's showing that it's being
Right,
split,
shows it down here,
then it's
correct.
gonna be, he will be getting paid
From
from
those
those
three departments.
3
Yep.
expenses is where they'll be coming from.
Okay.
Which is this is where there's been issues coming in, where they're not listing it properly of where the money is coming from
Right.
individuals that are splitting their
And then
time.
Vicky has to leave a note or explain where the money, why the money's coming from each
Yes,
spot. And this is gonna clean that up so that she
right,
doesn't have to explain it.
right.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion to accept the PCF, the emergency one, and the part-time for William Wells.
Accept.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Okay, this is a PCF. These are all for the fire department. Next few here.
Okay.
These are PCFs. This one is for Maria?
Moira?
O'Neill. It says this is an emergency, it says, and actually we have the PCF here for the part-time as well, so if we can hit both of these together again, that would be,
What is the emergency for?
what it is, it looks like he has completed the Hampshire County Firefighting Training certification, and it looks like it's a $1 increase, or is that I don't know if it's 1561 or 1511.
All the others were 50 cents, so I'm
I was
assuming
about
that
to,
one was
yeah,
too.
it should be
Okay.
50 cents.
Okay, so I'd say that must be 61 then. So that's what it is.
But is this someone who's currently working, or is this someone that's on the list of,
Let's see,
what you call it, if they're needed, they
on
work?
call.
Yeah, thank you.
I would assume it's on call. It's coming from the general fund. I would have to assume, only because it doesn't say it's a new hire, but I would have to assume,
I'm going to interrupt you for 2 seconds.
Sure.
I'm going down to the select board meeting to talk about the audit, but then I thought I might sit with you guys for a few minutes.
Yep.
When I come back up,
Okay.
perfect,
Okay.
yes,
Yep.
perfect.
to go over reports and explain kind of how they work to you and whatever else.
That sounds great.
Okay, all right, I'll be back.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I'd have to say it's just a rate increase, it's not a new hire, because there's an old rate and a new rate here.
Yeah, I was just wondering though if it was somebody who's on payroll or if it's somebody who is on call.
Do they have an hours per week, or is it?
It says emergency and part-time, so I do not have the answer, Sharon.
Okay.
What was your question?
I was gonna say, do they have a listed hours per week, or is it?
No. It's not listed on either one. And do we want to ask the question?
I think we
Ta-
should,
Table this
yeah.
one and ask the question?
Because usually,
Or maybe you
they
can
should
spot
put,
something.
maybe they changed it? Yeah, see, they don't have, because usually it should be in there, whether they're, on payroll or if they're just,
But there's another one right behind it the same way.
I don't think that she's on payroll. She might just be an on-call.
I think they're all on call.
Most of them are,
Yeah.
because we have those that are just, they don't, yeah, because it's part-time.
Right. And I have the same thing with this one,
Yeah,
and there's another one right behind it. the same
yeah, so
thing.
they're probably everybody who's just
on the on-call part, they're just, they're not a full-time person, or,
I would agree, I don't think it's a full-time
I don't
person.
think so. Because it would have, usually when they do if they have all their hours and everything listed on there, and there's nothing listed on there.
So they don't know, that's why, because
Right.
they
They're
get,
just
they get a
for-
call when,
yep.
when they're needed.
Yep. This
Okay.
person's not here, this person's not here, you're next on our list, are you available to work?
Right. Or I think they also carry a radio, and they get toned out if there's a car accident or a fire
Yeah.
someplace, and they call people in. So, do I hear a motion to accept, oops, I got the wrong ones, on the two, the emergency and the part-time for, how did you say that again, Myra?
Moira?
Myra
Moira is an Irish name.
O'Neill.
Accept.
Motion.
To accept.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Amazing how many of these that come through constantly.
Never fully staffed, huh? Never fully staffed.
I often wonder what the turnover is, you know?
That's what I said, I would hate to have to do, because the paperwork is just constant.
This is, again, this is an emergency and a part-time, just like the last one for Anna Nadler. This one is a little bit less expensive. It's $11.72 per hour. And has completed the Hampshire County firefighting training certification. So it's identical with a new person. Motion?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Again, this is a PCF. Looks like this is the exact same thing as the last two. It's a emergency and a part-time for a Leoco Eric. The rate is $11.50 and has completed the Hampshire County firefighting certification training. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We're getting close. Okay. This is, again, the same thing, a little bit different though. This is for Robert Dragon. It says here that Bob has completed all his paramedic training requirements. He has obtained clearance from CDH, our medical control hospital, who added him to our roster as a paramedic, cleared to the ability of working independently. This is a rate increase from $17.33 to $20.29. And so this is a current employee, obviously, and it says part-time. I believe they're on call. They're saying there is no increase to the budget on this. I believe it's because, I didn't see that, I thought I saw it somewhere on here. I believe it's because the paramedics are paid about the same, and when they have a paramedic, they don't have 4 paramedics on. They're not
Right.
bringing them on as an extra paramedic while the other ones are working, so.
Right. They're not
So,
pulling overtime, they're not pulling anything extra.
correct.
Yeah,
That's
everything is
right, I believe that's
across the
the way
board.
I understand
Yeah.
that, so I can see that being neutral. So with all that said, do I get a motion to accept
Yep, motion to accept.
Robert Dragons?
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Last one. This is, okay, last one, this is a PRF, or a circulation librarian. It is a new position. It says we are reorganize our staff at the library after Carol's retirement. This 6-hour position is part of registration, it says.
Is part of that reorganization.
Reorganization, okay, that makes sense. The pay scale is set at $14 an hour for 6 hours a week. The annual expense is $36.96 for 44 weeks in fiscal year 2019. So again, they're looking for this position, I would say. So they do this PRF and then they go looking for, then they find somebody, then we do the PCF? Okay. So this doesn't cost us anything yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Any discussion on this?
It's just part of the overall reorganization that they did.
Reorganization. Okay. Motion?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Schedule our next meeting.
Oh,
That's,
that, when did you print that?
Oh,
Because I
okay.
updated it.
I just printed it today. We can skip that to the, oh yeah, I see those next one at the end.
Oh, you know what? I think I did notice that I had added on to it since it was going to be different and
That's
then
okay.
didn't delete that line, so
Do you want to hit it now or hit it later?
later's fine.
Okay. Okay.
I think it actually comes up twice.
Old business, the fiscal year 2018 review and expenses. Is there anything you want to point out on that, or I don't have any questions in that right now anyway. I think it's early, but anything you want to discuss there?
For what was that?
It's old business for 2018 revenue or expenses.
Oh, okay.
Which I think, when we talk to Vicki afterwards, I want to get an email chain so that we get these things. Is it bi-weekly or bi-monthly?
It's supposed to be bi-weekly.
Okay, I'd like to get into that. So, I guess if we have no more discussion on that, we're good. We're good there. New business, I don't have any new business. It's early in the year, I guess.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot going on right now.
All right. Liaison reports. I know you said, I heard you say earlier, you didn't go to you were not sworn in yet anyway. so,
Yeah, yeah.
And then what I think I'd like to do as far as that goes, I know I was voted onto the CPC, and Jessica was voted into the PPPB. And you said you were taking
Hampshire Regional.
the Hampshire Regional School Committee, which I know we talked about what we did, but I don't know, did we have to motion that in, have a vote on that, or?
I don't think so, because it's not changing.
Perfect, okay, okay. I just didn't, I know it wasn't official, so.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but it'll be in the minutes now that you are, so.
Yeah.
And then I
And we haven't had any meetings, we have a meeting coming up on Monday, so
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Mhm. And then there is the Norris School as well, that we still haven't filled. I know Claudia didn't show any interest.
No.
That's okay. That's okay. I can probably sit there and see
I
how
would
it
actually
goes.
really like to do that, but I can't do both
By all
PPP and Norris. I didn't know that Norris was open, otherwise I probably would have held off for that position,
Okay.
to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Well, it's take one position, get one position free, so.
And I think they have a meeting tomorrow night.
Oh, they do?
I
Okay.
believe they do.
Yeah.
What time are their meetings? Is it once a month?
No, theirs might be once a month, because Hampshire Regionals is once a month. I don't remember what the time said on there, if it was 6 or 6:30.
Okay,
They sent me an agenda, so I can send it over to you.
okay,
They sent me both agendas, I did.
okay. I guess a question is, I know the PPPP is a voting seat, and so is the CPC. So not that I'm looking for it, but if I were to take the Policy Procedure Board, can I do that? Because I already have a voting seat.
Can you do,
Can I be on two?
yes, because you don't, when it comes to, you're only a liaison. There's no voting, there's no nothing.
No, this is-
PPPB is a voting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant Norris.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
My bad.
Right, because I'm on CPA right now.
I don't think you can do both.
Okay, I
But
guess
that's a question
I can
for,
ask Ed.
Yeah.
that. So we can table that for now, and
Okay.
if you want to go to the Norris meeting, by all means.
Right, yeah, tomorrow won't work, but,
Okay,
you know.
there shouldn't be
basically-
too much being,
Right,
it's gonna be more school stuff.
Yeah.
They probably won't have too much in there for finance.
yeah.
All they're gonna talk about is what they finalized on the budget for this coming fiscal year.
Yeah.
And probably maybe a little bit of what they're planning on doing, but
Okay.
I don't think it'll be a whole lot out there, but.
okay. Well, that's a question that we can ask Ed, and, maybe it doesn't matter. And if
'Cause I
that's the
think
case, I don't know that I need one more thing to do, but I could, so.
Well, it's
See how it goes.
fine. I can make the PPP work for now. And then, in all honesty, can we do like a rotating Norris? Like if there's just a month I can't
That's
make
true.
it?
It's
or-
not a voting position. I know we talked
Right.
about that already, so.
Yeah, because it's not a voted position, so if somebody were available that night,
Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause, I would very much like to be involved.
And
in
then
that
when we
side.
see what they have on their agenda, if there's something on there that has nothing to do with finance at all, then there's a meeting that you won't even have to go to.
Yeah, okay. And I can always reach out to Erin too and see
Mm-hmm,
what,
yep. And
Right.
Erin will be more than happy. She's always
Yeah.
willing to give as much information as needed. So
Okay.
Erin is really great.
well, you know what I can do then now is I can commit to being an ad hoc liaison.
Okay.
I can be a liaison in name, just so at least we've got the position
So we have
filled.
somebody, yep.
Yeah.
And then I will just reach out to Erin and just let her know, I need to be a little bit selective about the meetings I go to, and,
Right.
so.
And then on the other hand too, I believe you said you were going to come to the town hall yesterday to get sworn in for PPPB.
Yeah.
So you may want to hold off on that a little
Okay.
bit. Unless you want both, you can, by all means, you can
Yeah,
take it.
well, I'll figure it out.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, so,
In the next meeting or whatever, so.
okay. Yeah, it would just be good to know from it what the
Right. Okay,
Okay. So I don't have anything for PPPB. I was not there last week.
no problem. Okay, so, any other necessary business? Can't wait till the next regular meeting. I know of nothing. Schedule next meeting.
Do we have to do the nominate and accept for the Norris?
No.
No.
No, because it's not.
No, it's not a voting.
Voting.
It's not a voting
Okay.
position, yeah.
Right. Next regular meeting?
We've got the one on the 6th.
Yeah, let's say
Oh,
we
that's
have,
right.
yeah.
It's Thursday.
Because we have to do it right before we're meeting with the select board, correct?
Right, on the 6th, correct, I forgot about that one.
And that works out because we would be meeting on the 3rd, which is Labor Day.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
So-
perfect.
Can we, if it's okay, it just helps me out a little bit with the planning. The 17th, I believe, would be the following meeting.
Okay,
And is that one that we just want to go ahead and plan on?
I can,
That's
Because it would
I
be
can
the
schedule
two-week
as far as,
rotation.
yeah, I can schedule as
Okay.
far ahead as you want, really.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you, Claudia?
Yeah, that should be fine.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are scheduling the 6th and the 17th.
Yeah. And so I was planning on coming in to pick up these to get them into the agenda prior to the meeting starting, but we can sort out a better process if you want, so that you've got time to.
It worked.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked.
All right.
Yeah, that worked fine. So 9, 6, and do we have a time? I'm assuming the select board meeting is at 6.
Yeah, it's
And-
usually at 6.
So do we want to do 5:30 again?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and on the 17th,
We can go back to 6 o'clock if that
want
works.
to go back to
for-
6 or is
It doesn't
5:30
matter.
work for everybody?
5:30 works for me, 6 o'clock works for me, so
6
whatever.
o'clock is a little bit easier.
It's easier to do?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
6 o'clock it is.
Sorry to be.
Might be a little easier to get dinner done before
Yeah. Yeah.
heading out. I hear you.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. You want anything beyond that?
We can plan for the next couple of months. Well, when is the next town meeting? Do we have one taking place in October or November this year?
There must be. I don't have it on my calendar, I don't know.
Is there Wi-Fi here? I can get online and find it.
There should be.
I can get out of the churches.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, they're right there, right?
Yeah. But they have zero signal from here, so never mind. My battery's dead, otherwise I can look it up. But anyway, up through September is totally fine. I'm in no rush to, as long as it's pretty usually gonna be every other Monday, like that works.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see.
Because then it also falls the Monday after the PPPB meets.
True.
But I think that's their rotation.
And usually Hampshire Regional always has their meetings on Mondays. And it's usually, which is throwing me all off, because it's usually the first or the second Monday of the month.
Oh, yeah, so then
Yeah.
sometimes you'll,
Yeah, so this one is, yeah. So
unless, well, and so the finance
obviously,
committee.
this meeting will take preference over that one. So if we have a meeting, then I won't go to that one, but I always get the minutes and stuff. And I'll always ask ahead of time, you have something listed on there for finance, what's the scoop?
Right, all they have up to that I can see on the website is just the special election on September 4th. I don't see much beyond that, but maybe I just don't see it. So, I mean, we can go to the 17th and
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
stop there, I guess, so. Okay. All right, so that's that. Motion to adjourn?
Or we're gonna wait for Vicky?
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that was good. That'll be on the record then?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's fine. All right. While waiting for her, I'm gonna run downstairs with those. for
Yeah,
the select
you can
board.
bring, yeah, because they'll need them now.
Yep, they're gonna sign them off tonight. All right, you good with everything? Be right back.
Can we pause the recording?
Yeah, we can pause it.
Just stop.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
There you go.
All right, we're back.
Let me get my report so I can just kind of talk through
Okay.
different pages. Come on, keys would help. Okay. So you will get a report like this that's expenses. And then you'll get one eventually for 19 that says revenue on it. We haven't, Jen is still working on her bank reconciliations for 18, so she hasn't posted any receipts for June, but July and August, so hopefully she'll get those in next week. So I'm going to start with the expense report. The first few pages are general fund monies, and that is the money that we vote out at town meeting. So you'll see where it says original budget, that is what all the accounts and all the dollar amounts that we voted at town meeting. So I enter all that into the system, based on, like I said, what we voted at town meeting. And these are broken out into subcategories of general government, protect persons and property, education, public works, human services, culture, recreation, debt, and then intergovernmental, and then the miscellaneous, which is really all the insurances, health insurance, liability insurance, that section there. And those are based on the UMIS manual rules that I have to follow from the state of Massachusetts. So the next column, you'll see budget revisions. Those are any transfers that are done either at a town meeting, or remember the end of year, we did all those budget line item transfers. That's where that goes. That's where that column will come. You see some pluses and you'll see some minuses. And then the revised budget is just the total of the two. Then you'll have your actual expended, which is what we've spent, what's left of the budget, and then you'll see the percentages. Now, at the beginning of the year, some of the percentages are kind of high because they're front-loaded with maintenance agreements, software contracts, that kind of stuff. When you see, July's, you might see.
Some are already at 100%.
Some are already at 100%, correct.
Yep.
So those first 4 pages are general fund money, which we voted on at the town meeting budget. The next, however many, 7 or 8, 10 pages are funds that carry over from year to year. So once you get to page 5, you have a series of different types of funds that have to be kept separate from the general fund. And any balances at the end of the year, you won't see that on 19 because I haven't rolled everything forward yet.
Okay.
But if you look at one from 18,
I have that too.
you'll see that there's a previous year balance. So what I do at the end of the year when I finish closing is whatever is the end of the balance
for the year before just gets rolled to the next year. And then any money we've collected for those funds gets put in that budget revision line item.
Okay, so let me ask you a question on that, because we were just doing, we were looking at the water.
Water and transfer are separate. They're different animals.
Okay, but let me ask a question.
Sure, you can answer.
So, we just signed off on a new position for, what was it, water
The water
tech?
technician?
Water
Yes.
technician,
Okay,
correct.
so this person obviously is just starting. So at the end of this fiscal year, there will be money left over in that. Where does that go?
The enterprise funds, they will keep their own money within that fund, and it's almost like free cash for them. It's called retained earnings, but any money that's left over, they get to keep, and it's their free cash that they can spend on projects.
That they can do whatever they
They
want
they can
with.
do whatever they want. It still has to be voted at town meeting, but they can do whatever they want, you know.
Okay, but it still has to be voted on.
It still has to be voted on, correct.
Okay.
Anything that goes in and out of that retained earnings or free cash has to be voted on at town meeting.
So there's still some control.
Yep, oh yeah, yeah, and there's only, I mean, with free cash and retained earnings, there's a certain amount you can get up to, which it's like 10% of our budget, I think, or whatever. I have to go back and double check to see what that is, but we're never gonna have $5 million. Right. I hate to say that, like, I'm not trying to be, you know,
It's true.
crash, but why would you, you know, $5 million, but you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, you know,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So anything in those water and transfer station, those budgets are loaded in like the general fund budget, because we vote on those at town meeting.
Okay.
So we put those in there up front, but anything left over stays within that fund and has to be appropriated, and they can do whatever they choose, provided it's, you know, water related, so. So you see Fund 22, which is all school funds. So we get grant money from schools, the revolving accounts for the Norris School. These are pertaining to Norris School, not Hampshire Regional, just the Norris.
Right.
And like I said, we'll get money from the state, we'll get money from, you know, the kids when they pay for their books, their field trips. That all goes into here. The school actually cuts the warrants to say where they're gonna spend the money, and we just enter it in my books to say that we spent it, and then at the end of the year, I match up with their business manager to make sure everything matches. Then the next one, 23 is...
And back to that.
Yep.
On that, there, so they, who votes on, now the school committee votes on?
Who
all that
votes
stuff?
on what they spend out of
What
there,
they spend,
correct.
okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And usually, yeah, they have to vote on all their warrants anyway. The grants are stipulated based on what you can and can't spend. Most of the grants they pay salaries out of, so, you know, the preschool program is only for preschool teachers and preschool supplies, but the school committee votes, you know, they sign off on all those warrants. So the next one is 23, which is all of our Chapter 90 money. So each year, the state says here, we're going to allocate you $300 and whatever $1,000 in Chapter 90.
Can
So
you define chapter 90 for me?
That's
it's
the
for the
streets.
roads.
Right, roads
Okay.
and streets.
It's the roads and streets money we get from the state. And
Which one was that?
23.
23.
Okay, so I don't have it on this one yet.
Anything, again, that they didn't spend the previous year gets carried over year to year. And then you add the new budget that the state says, you know, we're going to allow you to have. Now, it works on a reimbursement basis. So Randall has to submit the project, they have to get approved first, then he'll submit the bills, we'll pay the bills, and they have to submit the bills to the state to get reimbursed. But on this page, we're just keeping track of the expenses.
And it normally always gets approved?
Normally, they always get approved.
Okay, so it's possible that we could spend money that we may not be getting?
Nope, because they keep track of what you've already spent. Or what you've, not that you've actually physically spent it, but what projects have been approved and how much they are.
Okay,
So if we have $500,000 and Randall submitted $450,000 worth of projects that were approved, but we haven't physically spent them yet, he brought another project for 100, they would say,
Yeah.
nope, this project
Okay.
can only be 50,
okay.
based on the amount of money that
Right,
we say that
I
you
thought you said
have.
we had to spend the money and get the bills and then submit it,
But the project has to be approved first.
okay, perfect.
So they have to approve the amount of the project.
Gotcha.
Then we spend the money based on what they approved, because we can't spend any more than that, or they won't
Yep.
give us, they won't reimburse us the physical cash money.
Is there any times where that we are rolling any over, or is he?
No, we've been rolling over for a few years. I don't think it's up until this past year where he had put together a plan and spent quite a bit
Yeah.
on a pavement plan, I believe,
Okay.
to kind of do that. But we do roll it over, only because even though the project has been approved for a certain amount of money, it doesn't necessarily start and end in the same fiscal year. Because construction season is, like July to November,
In
and
the
then,
middle.
right in the middle.
Right.
So you have like 3 months where you can spend most of it, then you have to wait till the next July, and so some of that kind of rolls over for the next couple, for the next year. And usually what happens at the end of the year for this fund is that it's in the negative, because we've spent the money, but we haven't necessarily sent in the documentation for the reimbursement. So what happens is, as long as we send in the reimbursement by the state's deadline of September 30th, they don't count the negative against the town.
Okay.
Because they know that we've sent in that reimbursement to be approved. Because the project's already pre-approved, so it's just, they just want to see the documentation of, what you spent and how you spent it.
Now, who's in charge of sending that in?
That would be Randall.
Okay.
And Josette works on that too.
Okay.
So, I used to have to give copies to the state to say we have these many projects equaling what's over, what's overspent, but, or what we haven't gotten reimbursed for yet, but now they don't require that unless they ask us for it, so, but we keep track of that to make sure that, because otherwise what happens if you're short, any account that's short comes off of the free cash number. So if say for instance, we got a grant and we didn't get the money in time, and we can't prove that we were going to get the money by September, or we missed something and someone overspent something, then we would have to take that out of our free cash. If we can prove that we are going to get reimbursed by September, then, they don't have an issue with that, so.
Okay.
So then the next fund, 24, is our special revenue fund. So anything that's grant-related, I guess there's just a whole plethora of accounts that are in here, that the state has certain statutes that you can only count them as special revenue funds, like Council on Aging gets money from the state, Cultural Council gets money from the state, wetlands protection money, sale of real estate, highway emergency preparedness, any grants that we receive goes into this particular fund.
Yeah, I see a lot of grants.
Yep, so they will roll over year to year if they haven't already been spent out. Some of them are just one-year ones, you don't get them every year. And most of them are spent as soon as we get them. But this is the fund that all those go into. And so, there's a few on here that, like for instance, the 911 incentive grant is usually negative at the end of the year because it's for the wages for the dispatchers, but we haven't got reimbursed yet. So, but because we can prove to the state, hey, I sent this reimbursement in by June 30th or September 30th, usually I try to do it by June 30th because we've already spent the money.
Yeah.
They won't hold that against us. One time there was 10 cents on here that they took off, and I was like, all right, I made conservation just give me the 10 cents. Like, it's 10 cents, but, those
Because
types of
it's
things.
there.
It's there, and it's 10 cents, and you don't think about it, but, so any type of grant that we would particularly get that's not CPA or CPC related goes into this fund. And there's a few in here that I need to do some research. They were here when I got here, and I just have to figure out why we have the cell tower consultant for $500.
I was wondering what that was.
I don't know where it came from. I'm
Yeah.
trying to go back. I gotta look I can only go back to '06 in my system. And so I am gonna look through my desk drawers the cabinets, and if I can't find anything, it'll just go back to the general fund.
Right, because we didn't spend it.
We haven't spent it since I got here, it was here, and I'm
Okay.
like, what is that for? My assistant's like, I don't know, I've never heard of it before, so, and I can only go back to '06, so
Yeah.
after 12, 15 years, it'll just revert to the general fund, so.
Right, like what's the OCDETF investigation?
Oh, that's for the police department, and they do use that periodically.
okay.
They get a grant, they get some money every year. It's for like drug stings and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, so you didn't spend any of it.
Yeah, they didn't spend it this year, but last year they spent, about $1,000.
Yeah.
But then they get more money from grants that they collaborate with Northampton. They get, $5,000 or $1,000
Yeah.
every couple years, and that's for like undercover kind of investigations. So,
Okay.
so those types of things. Like I said, some of these are on here, and I have to just keep reminding the department heads, you can spend this money on stuff, even though it's been here for a while. So I try to go through those once a year just to make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be here. Or spend it on something. The next one is our revolving fund, which is Fund 25. So per state statutes, there are only certain pieces that can be revolving funds. And I don't know if you guys were at the town meeting in May, but there's a big to-do about the new Conservation Commission revolving fund.
Is that $10,000 one? Is
Yeah,
that
that's
what
the
it was
spending
for?
limit.
Yeah.
That's the spending limit. So, but they can only spend what they bring in. So if they
Right.
only bring in $5,000, they can only spend $5,000.
Right.
But they can't spend over 10. So electrical inspections and plumbing inspections, they get $40 per inspection. That goes into this account when we collect the money from the homeowners. 20 goes to the town, 40 goes to the inspector. Once they submit and they do the inspection, my assistant Joyce goes through and makes sure that we receive the money, and they'll submit payroll. So those are what those are. Council on Aging, we get a grant for the van, and it's reimbursable, so I submit every month what we spent, and they'll give us the money back, so there's always kind of a lag. The police outside detail, we pay the policemen the detail before we actually get the money from the vendors, so that's usually a pretty big negative, but I will give the state, these are the invoices that were created at the end of June, which they know we can't collect by the end of June, and they don't hold that against us. So these are ones where they have to collect the money in order for them to be able to spend it, and they can only spend what they've collected, but they can only spend what the limits that we set are. The only one in here, the weights and measures, any money that's left over, we set that revolving fund up a couple years ago so that anything that's left over goes back to the town as miscellaneous income. So if we pay $1,500 to have someone come and do our weights and measures at the grocery store, gasoline and all that, and we've collect $2,000, $500 goes back to the town. And so we usually get, $300 to $500 a year off of those weights and measures. So, but we set that up that way on purpose.
All right, so next year there'll be a line item for the
For conservation, yep. Yeah,
Okay.
he's already collected money and just gonna put money in there, so. What we had been doing is putting everything at wetlands protection, and we really shouldn't have. We were putting it in there and spending it out of there, so it was a wash, but we really, should have set up a revolving fund earlier. But someone told Art that he couldn't do that, and I'm like, why didn't you come and ask me?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just come and ask me?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's that. And then 26 is gift funds. So anyone can donate money to the town. Yeah. The library gets a lot of gift funds, like the Friends of the Library. They give money to the library and they put it in here and they use it for books. So anyone that gives a check and say, hey, I want this to go towards whatever piece of organization of the town, I set up a separate account. And they can use it at their discretion. They can use it for whatever they want, as long as it's legal expense. If they want to buy a new table and chairs for the library, shelves, whatever, they can do it. But they can't buy food for people,
Right.
can't buy alcohol, they can't buy, excessive fireworks and all that kind of stuff, so.
Okay.
So that's basically to their discretion what they want to use it for. And that rolls over year over year also.
And it stays within,
Yep.
within the...
Within
If
those,
it's in the
yep.
library, it stays within the library and
Yep.
it rolls over?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You know, like Walmart gives the police department $500 and he puts it in here because he spends it on, you know, stuff that he doesn't have in his budget, you know, for the guys or whatever he may need. So the next one is community preservation.
Right, that one we really have no say on either, right?
No, no.
Town.
So, yeah, the town voted that 3%. They have to vote at town meeting to take it out of those first few funds in order to, and then I create an account for whatever project it may be. And Virginia and I will go over it a couple times a year to determine whether the project's closed. So any money that's left over has to go back to where it originally came from. So if you took money out of historic preservation and the historic committee didn't use it, then it has to go back to historic preservation. So, you know, like for instance, the Cook Road project, there's $44.84. I gotta put that back to where it came from because that project's closed.
So once it's closed, it goes into, gotcha.
It goes back into undesignated open space, but anything that's still open just rolls over to the next year.
Okay.
And once they approve at town meeting the project, the person who's in charge of that project is the only one who can spend that money. So CPA can't come, the select board can't come, a town administrator can't come, highway super, police, no one, unless it's their project, can sign off to spend that money. So like if we give it to historical committee, you know, they have to be the ones who sign the warrant, so us to pay the bill, otherwise I'm not gonna pay the bill. Or Joyce won't pay the bill. So that's why you have to be careful of how you word the town meeting vote, because then that person, like Greenway, it was submitted in the town meeting that the select board was given the money when they were doing the feasibility study. So only the select board could sign off, not the chair of the Greenway committee. So we have to kind of
Be very careful how.
keep that track in mind, yeah.
Yep.
Because that's something if the auditors, won't be a huge finding, but they'll be like, yeah, these people probably shouldn't sign this warrant. They're not authorized to spend that money. But Virginia and I keep really good tabs. Mr. Frary, do you guys know Mr. Frary?
Yes.
He has a couple accounts in here. He always comes up to see how much he has and what he can spend, and he keeps a pretty good track of his stuff. Mr. Kozip, he does a lot of historical stuff, you know, keeps track of that pretty well, so they're pretty good about coming in to see what they have and what they don't have.
Wouldn't it be nice if everybody did that? What do I have to spend instead of just writing the check?
Yeah.
Instead of just spending the money?
I know, huh? So then we have Fund 30, which is capital. So anything we vote at town meeting from capital, or it could be from operational stabilization funds, if it's a capital item, will go in here. So for instance, I think the Norris School carpet came from operational, but I put it in capital fund because it was over the criteria for a fixed asset
$15,000 or something.
is a useful life of a year or over $5,000. So I would have to take that and add it to our valuation of whatever fixed assets we have in town. So that's why I keep all those in this fund.
Okay.
Anything that doesn't get spent goes back to where it came from. So like, I've been hearing grumblings that we're not gonna spend the $62,000 on the lawnmower, that Randall fixed the lawnmower. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, so he ended up fixing the old one?
I think so, but I'm not positive. But regardless, so if he
Good.
didn't use it or he didn't use any part of it, then that would have to go back into the stabilization fund.
Yep.
You know, like the library carpet, they did a round figure of 15, there's $397. That will go back to whatever fund it came from. And those are all state statutes that I have to kind of abide by, so.
Okay.
And, yeah, so, and usually, you know, they're scrambling for capital money, so those are usually spent down to the penny.
Yep. But like the tire dump cleanup, that's a zero. There's
That-
zero money there, so.
There was.
No, that goes back a long
That
ways.
goes back a long time, and
Yeah.
it was stipulated in whatever money we got that it had to stay there forever to clean up those tires on Fletcher's property.
Yep.
And we haven't used it probably in the past 3 or 4 years, but we did use it, well, see, I've been here 6 years, so probably the first 4 years I was here, we did use it a little bit. But that has to stay there based on, whose farm was that?
Just in
The
case.
Fowles farm?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was based
Fowles.
on whatever agreement they came with, that has to stay there pretty much forever.
Yep.
So,
And what is the purpose of it again?
to clean up, there are these tires that are on the Fletcher Farm property.
back a long
Goes
ways.
back probably,
No.
When they redid Route 10.
yeah,
They redid Route 10. It all comes back to when they built Gun Road
Yeah.
and Route 10 comes through. They kind of forced all the water to go through Fowles Farm, which is now Fletcher's
Okay.
property. And it washed everything.
Washed everything away.
It washed everything away down there, and it's down in the back. And it was very expensive. And we had some money in a state. It was all state approved too. So then we went back to the state to have them fix it, and they're like,
nope.
you guys are on your own.
Yeah.
So it was a big to-do. And the Fowles pretty much lost their farm because of it, and that's when Fletcher's came in and took it over. so.
Yeah, and so they call it the tire dump because there's those big tractor trailer truck tires that prevent the water from,
Yeah.
kind of washing out the rest of the
There's like
farm.
hundreds of thousands of tires back there.
Yeah,
It
it's-
took a lot out, but they're still there. so.
Yeah, and so that's there to potentially kind of clean that up, but,
Yeah. They were allowed to put it in to limit the erosion going through there. That's how they got there. Until years later, they thought it wasn't such a good idea. They made them start taking it all back out.
yeah. And the Board of Health was involved in the whole
Yep.
issue, and it was, yeah, so she's got binders downstairs of everything, and, I was told, because when I first got here in 2012, the old town administrator, I think it was Diana, had taken money out of there to pay something. I'm like, no, you can't. And so my predecessor at that point in time, told you gotta put that money back. You can't, so I had to put it back because it wasn't supposed to be used for anything but
Yeah.
cleaning up the tire dump. So anyway, that will stay there
Yep.
probably, I think I would be here for a long time. That might be here.
Might be a little longer.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time for those tires to go away on their own.
I
so.
know. The next one, 31, is another capital fund, but we had to separate out water capital from regular capital. That was the suggestion the auditors made so that we could keep, all the water projects separate. Each enterprise fund should have their own capital or grants, which is a special revenue fund account that's specific for just that enterprise fund, to keep it separate from everything else, because that was the purpose of it. So these are the projects that, the water department has put together that they're kind of working on as they go around. They're still working on some master plan stuff. Safe routes to school probably could get closed out. I have to talk to Tom Gunn about that. And the grants, they have one last piece that they need to pay out, which will probably come this year. And then,
Now that safe routes to school, that was the whole
yep,
Route 10 thing up there,
that was the
right?
Route 10 thing. And so what happened was is they stopped at Cumberland Farms, so the water department went extra and went to Gun Road.
Yeah.
And so this money was to cover the rest of that through Gun Road. They thought, since we had already chewed it up, and kind of have everything in pieces, we're just going to finish it.
Just finish it
So
off.
they appropriated the money at town meeting to just finish that
Finish
off.
it up.
Yep.
Looks amazing.
Yeah, I run on that piece of
I see you all
sidewalk
the
every
time,
day,
yeah.
and it's so great, because I can go when it's dark out, and I don't have to worry about the cars. So,
Yep.
so yeah, anything that will appropriate out of those retained earnings, whatever they have left over, will go into this fund, just so you can keep water separate. And that will roll over year to year, whatever they don't use. And if they are done with it, it goes back into that pot of retained earnings next time. Then the next two are water and transfer station. These are the budgets that were voted at town meeting. And then whatever they spent during the year in their balance and the percentages. So whatever's left over will go into that retained earnings, like the free cash piece, and that's been appropriated at town meeting. And Tom does a pretty good job. like even though it says water operating expenses for 168, he usually gives me kind of a detailed list of, when he does the budget, of what he might spend that money on. Same thing with his capital, he'll kind of break it out when he submits the budget. So you guys will go through the budget process, and you've probably seen it before. When you go through the budget process in whatever, January, February, he'll give you that, it's kind of a guesstimate. He puts in there, we might need $35,000 to buy water from East Hampton, but if we don't, then he gets to save it, but we have to put it in there. So he'll break all that down of what he needs for the year.
So on July 1st, they started with a balance of $243,659, because that rolls over?
That will go into what their free cash piece is. So they underspent their budget, but they actually collected more in revenues. So whatever that total is, it will get added to or subtracted from whatever was left over from last year. So this year, at the end of 18, they'll have 500 and some odd thousand dollars in their free cash bucket. And they have many projects that they are running at.
Yeah, they could use every cent of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't get town water, so.
I do, but I guess the pipes need to all be.
They're old.
And they put money aside for meters, because they're gonna have to change the meters out eventually, so Tom Gunn is awesome.
Yeah, good.
He's done a great job, and he's thankful that Joe's still here to because Joe has it all up in his head,
Yeah,
so he needs that knowledge.
yeah.
And with hiring this new guy, I won't see him at 6 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning when I'm running to go check the well. Someone else can do it for him. Or Easter, or Christmas, or whatever, So yeah, that all stays within that same budget. And then you have the transfer station, which isn't so lucrative.
So if I were just to back up a little bit, on like the enterprise fund, any enterprise
Yep.
fund, there's, say, the second line down, wages, support. If we ever wanted a breakdown of any of this stuff, it gets broken down someplace else, we'd see the water department for that, or would that be?
Well, if you wanted to see what the actual was, I can give you a report of who was paid what out of there. He
Okay.
will give you the budget of, this is what I anticipate,
Yeah.
the budget to be.
Okay.
But any of the expenses, I can print out, because we post payroll by person. So like you look at, water or police, it's every single person every week
Yeah.
tells you what they get paid.
Okay,
So I can do that and send that to you of what's in that.
okay. I'm not asking for it, but I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
no,
like-
yeah,
like
no.
operating expenses.
Yep, I
That
can-
must be broken down somewhere.
Yeah, I can break it out and give you a total by vendor.
Okay.
But he has that budget, and when he goes over his budget with you, after the water commissioners approve it, it's it's broken out.
Okay.
In more
Actually, they
detail.
don't go over the budgets with us anymore.
Oh, they don't?
Nope.
I,
We got left out of that part last year.
wow.
The finance committee had very, very,
Yeah,
very little
I
say
know,
last
I
year
know.
for the budget.
I know, even the year before it was a mess, but.
The year before was a mess, but we had a little bit more control, I'm not gonna use the word control.
Control.
We had a little bit more say in we met with every single department head and went through everything. This past year, they pushed us out of it, we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, everyone should go over the budget with you.
And
Yeah, I combined and did all those spreadsheets, but.
And that's why they came up with the finance team.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago we did that. But again, it's still,
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But now we have the new bylaw for the budget,
Right.
which I have to read again. so.
Yeah.
And technically, by state statute, they're supposed to turn all their budgets into me. And then I bring them to the town administrator once I put them all together.
Right.
But they
Never
don't do that, which is fine. I kind of took part of it over this year because we had a new person, and I'm like, well, we got to get going, and he doesn't
Yeah.
really know, because he hasn't been here.
And we were trying to
And
push
the
it along
history,
too, because
yeah.
everything was kind of getting behind it.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
when we had it the year before, we were
Yeah.
trying to stay on top,
We
but
didn't
when
set up
we were
meetings
pushed out
with
of it,
people this
yeah.
year. And I think what they need to do is say, look, you need to give me your budget by February 1st, and if you don't get it, guess what? You're gonna get what you got last year. Even if you might
Exactly.
need more and there's more money, that's too bad.
And that's the
Yeah.
conversation we had, that, they need to be given a time limit. They have to have a time limit of when those budgets need to be in.
Yeah. With enterprise funds, by state statute, they have to be in 120 days before town meeting. That's what the state statute says. And Tom's usually pretty good. Randall's was kind
Yeah.
of late this year, but,
There's a few that are like, boom, they're done.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I sit with most of them and
Yeah.
kind of go over things, so. The easy ones are pretty easy to do.
Right, yeah. The smaller ones that, the smaller committees or whatever that have their little budgets,
Yeah.
Usually turn of the year, here you go, we're done.
Well, like my,
They're ready to go.
I have my salary, my assistant's
Right.
audit line, and $865.
Yeah, yeah, so it's like,
Oh, and my maintenance for my software, which is like $3,400. Here you go. See what I got. That's it. But, yeah, some people are really good and really diligent, and other people, yeah, I gotta do it, I gotta do it, I gotta do it, and they just wait till the last minute, and
Yep.
So what is the deadline for budgets?
I have to go and look at what the new bylaw is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember.
I don't think
what
there's
was in there.
specific dates, but
I don't
think
think
there's
so.
just like round number, like, there's,
But I know that they had discussed having conversation with the department heads that they were going to give them a specific date of
Yes,
when they
yep.
need to be in
Yep.
by.
And what kind of time, what time?
And into who?
Time of year is that?
into the town administrator.
Into the,
Yeah, because technically, we shouldn't be April 15th, like hashing out the budget with the select board. We
Right.
should be done, then it should come to you guys for review once they've
Exactly.
done that, and then give your recommendations before the May 1st town meeting.
right. And that was the reason why we were talking about the budget with the select board 2 days before the meeting, before the town meeting. We were still
Working
doing
it out.
some little finalizing of and approving. It
So
was-
what time of year is it? So it's early spring?
It'll be January, February when they'll be due.
When everything,
Okay.
yep.
And then we'll start going through them. Now, what we didn't do, bless you, the past 2 budget cycles, which we have done in the past, is the finance committee would be there, the finance team people, which would be the town administrator, myself, assessors, and treasurer collector, and the select board and finance committee would go over it line by line.
Right.
Some of them they'd kind of skip over because it was pretty basic.
Boilerplate
But,
stuff.
Yep, they would go through line by line and have a discussion. Why the select board thinks you should keep this $40,000 in there. Why the finance committee thinks, no, maybe you need to put 35. There was none of that for the past 2 years.
No.
They didn't go through it line by line, which normally they do, and I think they should.
Is there a reason it stopped?
I think it'll get further working together than.
I think 2 years ago, there were some things in the budget that were added at the last minute that were never brought to the finance committee, and the select board kept them in there, and finance was not happy, which I don't blame them, because we took them out. As a finance team committee, we took them all out. Select board member said, no, I want those put back in, so we put them back in. Then you present the budget at the select board meeting, and the finance committee's going,
We're like, where did
where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And they had a big discussion about the schools and the raises, and that's kind of where they didn't want to do it line by line. They should have.
Okay, so that's just, so they used to.
Yeah.
Everybody used to put their heads together and figure it out. Now they're kind of independent.
Kind of
doing
piece,
things.
yeah.
Okay.
And I
Which
think,
is not good, because
No.
I think that's where a lot of the mess is really starting to take place.
and I think part of it too was, we had an interim town administrator, who, was really great, but he wasn't here every day, and we kind of went through the budget. Then we had a new town administrator when the next budget process went through. And so it kind of just,
Yep.
and I guess, to be honest, people don't necessarily like to hear what the finance committee has to tell them.
They don't want to hear what we have to say.
Right.
They don't want to hear, yeah, you really shouldn't be giving everybody raises, or you shouldn't be giving them extra money in their expenses, because we really don't have it.
Right. And they don't want to hear it.
And so they hear, but they don't, they listen, but they don't, they
Yeah.
hear, but they don't listen.
Right.
So, yeah, and anyway, budgeting is tough because everyone's scrambling for pennies. Why don't I get this, and how come they got that? And it's really, it's very frustrating. We're all supposed to be working together, and so why can't one department say, hey, you know what? I got an extra, which the police chief did 2 years in a row. Yeah, I got $5,000 I can give you. I can do without the $5,000 for somebody that needed something. But then the next year, someone else should say, hey, you know, whether it be highway, fire, my department, town clerk, whatever, hey, you know, I got an extra $500, let's give them this because they need to do this training, that training. And give that, you know what I mean? It's like a give and take, and it doesn't quite happen that way.
It's more of a use it or lose it mentality.
Yeah.
You know, you might not get it back next year if you give it away this year.
Yeah.
Right.
But you should be able to work like that, like, hey, you know what, I think I could do without this $5,000 or the $1,000. You know, I know, you know, they need to buy, you know, new printers, or they need to do something else in their office, or they need to go do this training. Okay, then give it that to them, and then next year, someone else might need some new computers, and so you just kind of move that around.
What happened on the town meeting? The line item that we had recommended, the last warrant item on the town meeting, which was equipment for dispatch. And it was, what was it? No action, table thing?
I think, I talked to Mike about that, the chief, and it was because he had the guy come and talk to him about doing a lease for that equipment, but then he found out there might be some grants available in
Oh,
order
right.
to
Okay.
do.
So he backed out for a little
So
while.
we backed
Because it
out
was
for just a
just-
little while. It was, yeah.
We were like, wait, I personally was, like, what just happened?
I mean, they could have approved it because it was just approving getting into a 5-year contract. You don't have to have a contract, but you have to
Right.
have that approved. You could have still approved it and got the grant money and then
Just not use the
just not use the
Just not-
grant. You
just
know what I
not
mean? You
spend
could have went and rescinded it if you wanted to, but that's kind of not how the select board would vote on that. so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's fine. It's no worries. I was just curious.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Forgive me.
So the last page is
Last page.
Expendable trust funds. So we have a bunch of money that people gave us. The treasurer invests it for us. This money can only be, this is the interest that we've gained out of any of that money, except for the stabilization accounts, because we put money in from free cash. The rest of these are, this is just the interest that is accrued over the years, and they can only spend that interest and not the principal. And they can pretty much spend it however, you know, they want. Like Almoners has money, the library has money. I still haven't figured out what that Sheldon Academy is for. You know, cemetery has money for perpetual care for mowing and whatever they want to do, so, but this is the interest that is collected on those funds that were given to us, so.
Okay, we're not spending a lot of money out there.
No, they don't usually. The library will spend some money out of there, but people don't. The almoners are gonna come see me tomorrow because they're still trying to understand. The OPEB liability, we can't spend any money out of that. That's for retirement benefits. Stabilizations can only be transferred. We can't physically spend out of there, so anything we transfer, you know, for at town meeting that gets approved will come out of that account, so.
So I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
This is for this year so far,
Yep.
from July to August.
Yep.
So this is just for software support, but the treasurer overspent by almost $600. Where's that money going to come from?
That will probably come from, they'll have to save some of the money from their expenses. We under budgeted based on information we got from all those software companies.
Okay, I was just curious
Yeah.
of how that will now work. So they
Yeah.
will watch, but
Their
this will
expense
come
fund.
under just treasurer though.
Correct.
So they'll watch their expenses, whatever's left over will go towards
Yep.
that software.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, you try to get from them in February, what do you think you're gonna charge us for next year? And they say, oh, increase it by 20%, and it really comes in 25%.
more.
Yeah, so,
So there will be extra money someplace?
Maybe.
yeah.
That's what
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they could come to you guys because it wasn't an unexpected expense, but it was an unexpected amount, and that's what
Right.
you guys do with the
We knew
reserve funds.
we knew the expense was going to be there, but just it was a little bit more than
Yeah,
anticipated.
yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of hard, you know, you think, okay, it's only going to be this much, and, you know, they have 2 systems down there that they use. so.
Right.
But Jen, you know, even though she just came, she's pretty, and Donna was good too, pretty good about, you know, keeping track of what's left over and what's not left over, so. So that's,
I know Jessica's in a hurry here, so.
Drive to Chesterfield on a dirt road, and I'd like to do it before
before
dark.
it gets dark, I don't blame you, huh?
There's no Chipotle's up in Chesterfield.
No, my husband's bringing the Chipotle to
Just
me.
kidding.
That's the other thing. As soon as I get to Chesterfield, in fact, the sooner I get
Your food, I don't blame you.
my food.
So actually, I think I'll come back one other time and kind of go over the revenue with you guys.
Okay.
Because, you know, that's a little bit of a different animal.
Okay. And do we know when we'll have any of that input?
She's gonna try and work on those next week.
Okay.
But you will not have a budget in there for revenues until I do the tax rate, which is November. So you'll have actuals, but you won't have any budgets.
Can we, I noticed you sent it to him, but is it possible those biweekly reports, can it just come to a group rather than just the chair?
I think it just goes to the FinCom email, and then he has to send out, correct?
Yeah, but I can send it to you.
We can all get a copy though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
can send it to each one of you, so.
Okay.
Right.
I think
I only
when,
had that one, Jessica, because I requested it.
Oh, I see,
It's not,
okay.
it's not complete yet, so that's
Okay.
one thing we were gonna do was
Yeah.
see if we can get on the email chain.
Yeah.
Each one of us and,
Yeah.
so that it's
I'll
automatic.
have to set up a separate group, because I know in the group departments that usually my assistant sends everything to, there's only the FinCom chair. It only goes to FinCom at town. or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But I can send it to you
email
guys,
itself.
and I think I have all your emails, I got them from the
Okay.
last time.
Okay, I don't even know about that email address, so.
Oh, FinCom@townofsouthampton.org.
Okay, look that up.
Oh, Janine didn't tell you?
Nope.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a, and it goes to the, you know.
You might have a bunch of emails sitting in there, John.
Yeah.
No wonder we're not having any new business or department head requests.
Probably because that's where people will send it.
So FinCom, what is it again? .org? Or
At townofsouthampton.org. And you might just need to have a password, you know the password to get on, you know, at your home,
yeah,
you know?
okay,
You might want to talk to Art about what that password is,
okay.
you know, Art Lawrence.
Lawrence, yep,
Yeah.
okay. All right, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
Call the building department tomorrow.
Okay.
He is off ready, usually. Thank you for your time.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
That's right, yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Forgot about that. Just get up and walk out.
Does one of those things off? Does it make a noise when you turn it off?
It should. It should make the same noise.